Awesome, guys. Well, we are recording here, so I want to give a quick intro here to my good friend Chris Naugle. Chris and I were working together with you guys. If you have policies in force with us with the Money Multiplier Agency, Chris is my connection and how I met the Money Multiplier Agency. He's been in the financial services industry a long time, and I'll let him share with you his backstory, his experiences, and kind of where he's come from. We've got some similarities in our backgrounds. But one thing I really appreciate Chris is he's a guy that walks the walk. And so, especially in this infinite banking space or the sacred account space, there's a lot of promotion, there's a lot of advertising, but there's a definite difference between a group and an individual who actually uses the concept successfully versus someone who just learns some marketing information and is good at making video content. So and Chris is someone that's good at both of those things. So without further ado, I want to let Chris kind of intro himself and we'll get into tonight's event.
All right. Well, hey, happy to be here, folks. I love doing these. And, I think I'm going to get into the intro just by first starting up with a video because I like making people laugh. It's one of my absolute favorite things to do. All right. Where did that go now? Can I have the ability to share? There we go. All right. So now. Technology is not my first language, folks. So just give me just 2 seconds here because I had the PowerPoint and now the PowerPoint has left me. There it is. All right. I'm used to having like 3 screens when I do this in the office, and now I'm doing it from my basement just because I wanted to switch things up. All right, can you see the screen?
It looks like it. Yeah, we can.
Perfect.
I know you've heard me say this a whole bunch of times, but you can never hear this too many times. These are some really important things that you need to learn, and not just learn, you need to apply these in your life. No one else is going to teach you this. You've got to start seeing the big picture. Good fortune's not going to just fall into your lap. I don't know if that's what you think is going to happen, but it isn't going to happen that way. You're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to do what everybody else is unwilling to do. You're going to have to grab it by its you-know-what. You get what I'm talking about. You can learn from the wealthy just like I had to, but I'm going to save you a lot of time because I've put years and years into this, and I've failed enough times where you don't have to fail. You just got to listen to me. Are you paying attention? There's a specific reason the rich keep getting richer. They know something that you and I don't know. And that's what you need to know. Do you know what I mean? Scouty, are you listening to me? I'm going to take that as a yes. Now, get up and go get us a beer.
You're going to do just fine. Everybody loves orange hair. I should know. It looks great on camera. You won't mess up your lines. If you mess up your lines, Kyle will just tell you them. You practice all night for this. It's your time to
Chris,
shine.
it looks like the video went black on our end.
That sucks. All right, well, I have no idea why that would have happened. So let's just try it again. How much of the video did you guys see?
We saw, I think, the very first part here. Okay, some people saw none of it. Some people saw some of it.
Can you see my screen now?
No, it's totally black now still.
This is not good. Not good at all. All right.
Okay, we can see it now.
Yeah, but that doesn't make sense when I can't just make it bigger. Like, it makes 0 sense. So I'm not a Mac guy, and this is a Mac. Because when I go, this is Keynote. So if I go to Keynote and I want to play Keynote, you can't see that. So here, let me try. I might have one idea here. I had this issue one other time. And if not, I'll just do it the other way. I should have just done this at the office. So you can see that.
Yeah.
All right. But when I hit play, like to actually make the PowerPoint or the Keynote work, now you don't see it.
Yep, just went black again.
Yeah, so, all right, that's freaky. Well, if anyone's good with computers, you guys can tell me how to do it later. But anyway, we'll just do it this way. Sorry, it's not going to be as good as me doing it with the full screen on there. Technical issues, but nonetheless, make this as big as I can on the screen because you stupid thing. There we go. Sorry, folks, just trying to, there we go. Is that any bigger there for you?
Yeah, that's a bit better.
All right. So sorry. All right. So what we're going to talk about tonight is we're going to talk about you being your own bank. And I can't think of a better time ever than right now for all of you to take back control of your money. Because with what's going on in the banking industry, with what we just saw happen with SVB and Republic and Signature banks, I mean, it's almost a ripple effect, almost a cry to all of you to understand that this is the time where what we teach, the sacred account, be your own bank, and everything we do with the money multiplier is so vital, so very important. It almost brings me back to all the stories that I read about the Rockefellers, you know, and the Rothschilds back in their day. You know, when they stumbled upon this banking system in a way, they were going through the same things we're going through right now. It was a little worse back then, but they didn't trust the banking system. So they found a better banking system through mutually owned insurance companies, which back then, like they are today, was some of the strongest institutions in the world. And the thing that they had to figure out is they had to figure out, how do we create a banking system using insurance companies, which don't act like a bank? You can't just walk into an insurance company and make deposits. So they figured that out by figuring out how to design and engineer whole life insurance policies so that they work more like what I'm going to show you tonight. And that sums up what I'll teach you. Now, this presentation goes over a lot of different things. We cover mindset, we cover a lot. Some things I'm not going to be able to play for you because I can't get the dumb computer to work the way it should. But here's the most important thing you need to understand. The main idea of what you're going to teach is not a product, okay? A lot of people want to make the infinite banking concept all about a product, which is especially designed whole life. And yes, that's important, but really what you need to learn first and foremost is the process of the infinite banking concept, which is you taking back the banking functions in your life. So when you think about banking, you know how you do your banking. You walk into someone else's bank, you make a deposit. When you make that deposit, you feel good. Now, the bank takes your deposit and immediately makes that money go to work for them. They lend that money out. Now, let's just pretend they pay you 1 and they charge 5 on the loan that they made. They made a spread. The whole idea behind this premise and this concept is exactly that. You get to be the bank and you get to make that spread instead of them being in control of the money and making it work for them. And I'm going to show you 2 main case studies tonight. I'm going to show you, number 1, how you can basically, with cars, I think all of you like cars, but how you can get all the money back for every single car you will ever buy, drive, and own. I'm also going to show you how you can build wealth through your own debts and expenses. Now, the hardest thing about everything I'm going to show you tonight is not that the content and not that the process is complicated. The hardest thing is you've been taught the complete opposite your whole life. You've literally been taught to give up control, and you think that's normal. You think giving the bank money, giving Wall Street money, putting money in 401ks, you think, oh, that's the norm, where really all you're doing is giving control away of your money and having somebody else make it go to work. Now, I had a cool little video. I don't think it's going to play in this, but let's see, maybe.
Get out of here. I'm not banking with you, not you, not you. Nope, nope. I'm going to be my own bank. I'm not banking with you. Uninterrupted compound interest. Start your infinite banking policy today. Bye-bye, big banks.
I think every one of the depositors at SVB, Republic, and Signature Bank are all thinking just like that. Bye-bye, big banks. Well, the beauty is they're not on this webinar tonight. You are, so you get to be the ones that say bye-bye, and then you can then tell the story, show people how you were able to change that, because you are the 5%. You're all the 5%. You know, when I learned what made people successful and what made people not successful, it came down to one thing. It came down to creation. If you ever follow Earl Nightingale or The Strangest Secret in the World, in there, they did a whole study about 100 25-year-olds. And they asked them a single question: are you going to be successful at the age of retirement? And what do you all think they said? If you were 25 and you were asked that, what would you say?
Definitely.
Yes, right? Of course. You'd all say yes. Well, that's what they said. They were all without any hesitation. Yes, we're going to be successful. Well, in this study, they followed these eager, optimistic 25-year-olds through their life. And they studied what these people did. And the outcome is easily described by this statistic right here, Social Security Administration. What they found is that when these 25-year-olds became 60, 100 of them, this was the outcome. Only 5 of those 100 eager, optimistic 25-year-olds were successful. The other 95 were not. It's right there in front of you. Social Security Administration says that 5 out of 100 people will be financially secure at the age of retirement. Now, I don't know how you all feel about that, but the way I look at this is we live in the United States of America. This is the land of opportunity, the greatest country on earth. I mean, how in the world can that be the statistic? Where did we go wrong that this is how our society operates from a financial standpoint? It's easy to see where we went wrong. Lack of education. We're never taught about money. You don't even know how to balance a checkbook when you come out of high school. You go to college and they teach you a whole bunch of stuff that's relevant for whatever profession you're going to go in, but none of it ties back to how money's going to work. I was a financial advisor. I'll tell you my story in a second, but a financial advisor for 16 years. We never, ever learn what you're about to learn. As an advisor, and I was a very high-level advisor, you can look me up, and I never once was shown what the infinite banking concept was. I never even understand you could do what you're about to see with a whole life insurance policy. I didn't think it was even possible. So when you look at 100 people and you wonder why 5 are successful and the other 95 are not, it's simple. 5 of them created something. 5 of them created their financial future. 5 of them created their business. 5 of them created something that solved other people's problems. And as Earl Nightingale's story, The Strangest Secret in the World, talks about, the other 95%, the 95 of these 100, what did they do wrong? Well, they conformed. They conformed to somebody else's failed reality, somebody else's failed dream, somebody else's failed plan. Tonight, you get to create your plan. You got a blank canvas, literally, truly a blank canvas. Stock markets are failing you. They're falling out of the sky. Most of you that have money in the markets, you're probably down 20 to 30%, depending on what your portfolio looks like. Some of you are very concerned about money in banks. Some of you are looking at the whole system saying, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Great. Take that old page right out of the book and start fresh, because tonight you get to rewrite your entire financial future. Because I'll tell you something, this is what I got to do. So let me just tell you just a tad about myself. I'm not going to just spend a long time explaining me and who I am, but I didn't grow up with money. Certainly didn't. Grew up in a lower middle class working family. Dad was an alcoholic and my mom raised me, and it was a huge struggle for her. Now, I'm not saying that's the norm for any of you, but that was my norm. And even though I grew up without money and we struggled on a lot of things, my mother always taught me to want more, and I know for a fact, all of you, we got 20 of you on here right now and more joining. All of you want more too. Otherwise you would not be here, because you're the 5%ers, which means you're willing to invest your time, your money, and your energy to learn something new. And I commend you for that, because that's what creation is about. First learning and then applying what you learn. Well, that's what I had to do. By the time I got to be just a young man, late in my teens, 16, 17, I had accomplished a couple things. At 16, I started my first company. At 17, I opened my first snowboard shop, which was only possible because my mother put the only thing in the world that she had up for collateral, which was our house, so that I could get an SBA-backed loan to open my snowboard shop, Fat Man Board Shops. Happy to say that those shops are still open today. I sold them in 2010. But one of my big dreams growing up as a kid was what you see on the screen. I wanted to be a pro snowboarder. Now, I live in Buffalo, New York. We get a lot of snow, but we don't exactly have mountains. So it was a tall task. When I would tell my friends and my family that that's what I wanted, they would all tell me I was crazy. Kind of like that movie, Kid, you'll shoot your eye out. So many people in your lives and also in mine tell us we can't do things, tell us our ideas are stupid, tell us, what we dream and what we want can't happen. It's no different for me. My father, my family, when I was trying to open that skateboard shop and it was almost a dead dream, they all said I couldn't. They said it was a dumb idea. I'll lose all the money. My dad offered me to take me over to his factory where he worked, Harrison Radiator, and get me a job there. He was trying to, when your parents do that, they're trying to help you. When your friends try to give you constructive criticism or tell you your ideas are dumb or that's a scam. I hear that a lot. Oh, what you teach, that's a scam. I heard that's a scam. Yeah, it's the oldest scam in the world, if it is. It's been around for hundreds of years. But, I always heard that too. And I just decided not to listen to people. And I decided to push on. And I did end up becoming a pro snowboarder. I ended up running those businesses. And all the way up to the early 2000s, when I was 23 years old, I was living a fairy tale world. Truly was. Pro snowboarder, skateboard shop owner, snowboard shop owner. I had what, in my opinion at that time, the perfect life. Until in the early 2000s, I'm driving to my newest store, a little boutique that we just opened, and on the radio, I hear of a plane hitting a tower and then another. We all know that was 9/11. Now, I was 22 years old when that happened. And what I didn't know was what followed those crash. I didn't realize that was going to be what we now know as the dot-com recession. Well, that recession was the first recession I ever went through. It wasn't the first one I lived through, but it was the first one I went through. And I say it like that because that was the first one where I really felt the impact of what a recession means and what it feels like and what it does to rip people apart, to tank businesses. Those awesome skateboard, snowboard shops, almost overnight, lost 30%. I literally had to make some decisions. And the decision I had to make was to get a job because I couldn't support myself. And let me transition real quick. I want you to come to today. Today's 2023. We're March of 2023. Whether or not you believe it or not, or it feels like it or not, we are in a recession technically. And we're going much deeper into a recession. All these things you're seeing, all these signs, what the Fed's doing, everything you see in the news is a telltale sign that we're going to a deep recession. The inverted yield curve, meaning you get paid more for a 2-year bond than you do a 10-year bond, that has never been wrong. Never once, not once since World War II. And that's as long as I've been tracking it. So I say this as a warning, but also as a way to get you excited because this is a huge opportunity. When I went through the recession back in those 2000s, it crushed me. It forced me to get a job. I don't want the same for you. This recession for all of you, if you listen to what Jerry and I are going to teach you, this should be one of the biggest opportunities of your life because when everybody else is fearful, you should be greedy. Warren Buffett's quote. When others are fearful, you should be greedy. And when others are greedy, which was the last couple of years, you should have been fearful. I've been very fearful, waiting for this opportunity. And back then, that wasn't the case. So when I realized I was in a recession and I didn't know what to do, I couldn't find a job because during a recession, guess what? People aren't hiring. So I put my resume out and the only people that were hiring was Wall Street. And I ended up, as strange as it sounds, as a punk snowboard kid, I ended up entering Wall Street. At 23 years old, I was in the floor of a big Wall Street firm, and I was what they call pond scum. You've seen the movies. But I saw an opportunity in that environment, that pond scum environment, and that opportunity was for me to do what all those other big investors and those big advisors were unwilling to do. They got there at 8:39. They left for 2 hours for lunch and they were gone by 5 o'clock. So I got there at 7 in the morning. I pounded the phones through lunch. And then after they left, I went on, I saw people at their kitchen table and I became one of the top financial advisors. I went on to have a heck of a career as a financial advisor, being, all the awards and acclamations you can get and, being pretty well known in my space. But I got sick of it and I started seeing a lot of things in Wall Street that I didn't like when I got around my 15th and 16th year in the industry. So luckily I was doing real estate. Me and my wife right there in the middle, her name's Larissa, we were flipping a lot of houses and we got an opportunity to do a show on HGTV, and it was called Risky Builders. But when I got the show and it got approved, I had to go to my compliance officer and get an OBA, an outside business activity. And thankfully, and back then it seems not thankful, but they said no. They said, Chris, you got to decide, are you going to be a financial advisor or a TV show star? You guys can all know where I went. TV show star, of course. I sold my practice to this guy, Mike. and off I went to do my show. But then I got the dreaded call where the show didn't go through, and that was it. That was it. Game over. One door closes, another door opened. And that door that opened was this door right here. Me going out and teaching people the truth about money, how money really works, all the things that I never was able to talk to my clients about as an advisor, because obviously we couldn't make money teaching people the truth. We made money selling them products. We made money managing their money. We never would have made any money telling and teaching people how to take back control and how to mimic what the banks do and mimic what the wealthy do. Well, that's what you're going to learn tonight, is everything that I didn't learn as an advisor. But here's the most important thing. On this slide, you see a quote by Will Rogers. He says, "The biggest problem in America is not what people don't know. The problem in America is what people think they know that just ain't so." I urge you to really take that and remember that, because everything I'm going to teach you is going to go against what you've been taught about money. But I'm not the only one that teaches this. I'm not the only one that's been talking about it, because you know some of these books on here. You know who Robert Kiyosaki is, okay? In his book, Second Chance, he talks all about this concept. How about the big guy, Tony Robbins right there? Money, Master the Game. Section 5.2 in that book talks all about the infinite banking concept. The main person that, you know, myself and so many of us, Jerry included, can all go back to and thank, if he was still around, is the late R. Nelson Nash for the book, Becoming Your Own Banker. That's where it all started. My book and Brent's book right down there, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery and the Private Money Guide. Those books all talk about this, and there's so many more, like the Pirates of Manhattan, and you can find tons of books. So if what I'm about to show you is a scam, or if what I'm about to show you doesn't seem like it's possible, because I get that all the time, I'm sure Jerry does too, oh, that seems too good to be true, then why are all those people writing about it? And why have all the wealthiest families in history used this concept? When I say the wealthiest families in history, I'm talking about the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Walt Disneys, the Ray Krocs, the Doris Christophers, the Warren Buffetts in a roundabout way, not the exact way I'm going to teach it, to Joe Biden's, you know, love him or hate him. I'm sure you guys have your own opinion. He uses this, and McCain used this to fund his political campaigns. And I could go on, but that's enough. Just the one similarity you can see in all those stories is all of those families were very wealthy. So why didn't they just put their money in the bank? Why didn't they just do all the things that you're taught to do? And then, you know, one other thing, which I'll get to in a bit, is why don't the banks do exactly what they tell you to do with your money? Because they certainly don't. This video here, I'm not going to play just because, you know, it's a bit long, but I would urge all of you to really watch this. So if you got a pen and paper, write this video down. It's called The Backward Bicycle. This video really sums up the mindset shift you have to go through. And it can be summed up like this. We all know how to ride a bike. At least I hope everybody on here, all 22 of you, know how to ride a bicycle. But how did you learn how to ride a bike? Well, when you were young, your parents put you on a bike with training wheels. And you learned when you push the pedals down, the bike goes forward. When you turn the handlebars to the right, the bike goes to the right. Turn the handlebars to the left, the bike goes to the left. Then all of a sudden you thought you had it mastered. You felt good. You were getting more confident, going faster, turning sharper. Then your parents took the training wheels off. You probably fell, but you didn't stop there. Otherwise you wouldn't be able to say, I know how to ride a bike. You got back on the bike and you kept trying and trying until finally you could ride the bike, and you went faster. And some of you probably were doing 360s over jumps. The point in case there is everything in your life started like that. Everything you've had to learn started just like when you first stepped on a bicycle and tried to ride it. You had to learn, and it wasn't easy. You crash, you fail. Now, here's the difficult part. All of you are different ages, different stages in your life, but you've all learned how to ride the traditional financial bicycle in a roundabout way. And now here I come with Jerry, and we're going to make one change. That's it, folks. We're just going to make one change to that bicycle that you know how to ride. Instead, that bicycle, which is what this video shows, I'm going to change one thing so that now, when you turn the handlebars to the right, your bicycle is now going to go to the left. And when you turn your handlebars to the left, the bicycle is going to go to the right. Now, we do this all the time. And if you watch the video, you'll know the outcome. But if I ask all of you, can you ride the backward bicycle? I'll bet you any money some of you would say, oh yeah, I could ride that bike. The answer is clear as day when you watch the video. You cannot ride the backward bicycle. Not at first. It would take a lot of practice, a lot of crashing. You would have to commit to it. You'd have to be consistent and persistent in your action, but eventually you would be able to ride the backward bicycle. Something would switch in your mind. And all of a sudden, when you turn the handlebars to the right, the bike would go to the left and it would just be normal. It would be no different than you going right when you turn right. Your mind would know no different because you retrained it, you reprogrammed it. But if you tried going back to riding a regular bicycle, that when you went right, it went right, you couldn't ride a regular bicycle anymore. I hope you kind of listened to what I just said, and I hope you do watch that video, because that's what we got to do here. We got to learn how to ride the backward bicycle today, and it isn't going to be easy. So let's dive in. Let's talk about some of the mysteries of money. First thing, and Jerry, if you can just watch the chats, because I kind of want to make this a little interactive. Who can tell me what the definition of money is? Just put it in the chats, folks. Just I'm watching the chat, but I don't want to put it up because it'll block out the screen. Who can tell me what is the definition of money? What answers we got, Jerry?
We have no answers. Yeah, okay. We have one from Megan Energy. Another one says energy flow, a tool for exchange.
Okay, wait. Who said that? Who said exchange?
That's Christina.
Christina, you nailed it. Money is nothing more than a means of exchange. Money for food, food for money. Money for house, house for money. Money for car, car for money. Money's always been a means of exchange. Doesn't matter if it's fiat dollar bills that we hold. It could be a credit card. It could be gold coins. Money has always been a means of exchange. So great job on that one. Let's try the next one. No one ever gets this one right. So let's see if one of you can nail it. What company in the world, I'll just open it right up. What company in the world uses compound interest? Someone's got to get this right. What company uses compound interest? Any company, just blurt them out, throw them in the chat. No one wants to take a guess at this one?
No answers so far. Nicholas says a mutual life insurance company.
Okay, there we go. What else?
Banks, life insurance.
Life insurance.
Banks.
Okay. So obviously nobody's right.
Cardone.
Okay. All right. So nobody got that right. Now, normally when I do this in front of a live audience, I give things away for free, like books. You know, I'm happy to give you guys my books if you get the questions right, but nobody got this one right because the answer to that question is none. There's not a company in the world that uses compound interest. Banks is the most common one, and we'll throw insurance companies in there. They don't use compound interest. They pay you compound interest. They charge you compound interest. And I can make an example out of that. If I had $100 in my hand and I picked one of you and I handed you my $100 because you're my banker, what are you going to do with that money? Are you going to take that money, put it in a little box with my name on it and throw it in the vault? No. The bank is going to take that money and they're going to lend that money out in those little glass cubicles behind me. And that money is going to go into motion. You see, banks keep all money in motion. Their money's always working for them. Same thing with insurance companies. When insurance premiums come into an insurance company, the insurance company sends that money in motion. It's always using money to make more. Grocery stores, for example. Grocery stores don't leave money just sitting there. They take the money and they buy more inventory. And then you buy the peas and the Fruit Loops and everything off the shelf. The money's constantly in motion. Car dealerships, they take the money, they buy cars. The cars are constantly moving off of the lot. There isn't a business in the world that uses compound interest. We are the only ones who have been taught to give our money up, leave it sit, because we've been taught to believe in compound interest. Now, I'm going to come back to compound interest in a second, but I just want you to understand that we're the only ones that use compound interest. This one's easy. You guys should all get this. Are taxes going up or are they going down? I don't even need to wait for the answer. I think all of you would say taxes are going up. If you don't believe that, read The Power of Zero, which is a great book, and it'll talk all about taxes. We're in the lowest tax bracket ever in history. They are going up. And I don't care if you're wealthy or middle class or lower class. It doesn't matter. All of our taxes are going up. And if you don't believe that, then tell me what inflation is, because inflation is a hidden tax. Get that straight. Second thing too, when we really talk about retirement accounts, when we're talking about 401ks, what is it that people know about a retirement account? Hold on, I won't even ask that question. I'll just tell you nothing. People know very little about 401ks and what they're investing in. Maybe they know if they're in low to moderate to high risk. Maybe they know what their contribution percentage is. But outside of that, they don't know much about the retirement accounts. But let me tell you a little bit about a retirement account in the lie that we've been taught. You can read a book called 501k by Ted Benna, who's the founder of 401ks, and he hates them. His book clearly outlines that. When we put money in a 401k, let's just go back to the other answers you all gave me. We are exchanging money, okay? But we're putting money in a 401k. Why? Because we want to save for the future. We want to save for retirement. We want a tax deduction. We want to grow that money. Great. So what money are you putting into the 401k? You're putting today's money in. And right now, your dollars are worth the most today. I didn't ask that question because I think you all know with inflation, tomorrow your dollars are worth less. The next day they're worth less. The next day they're worth less. So your dollars today are the most valuable dollars you will ever hold in your hand. But yet with a 401k, we take those dollars and we give up control of them. We put them into an account that we can't touch outside of the loans, 50% or 50,000. Can't touch that money for 5, 10, or 15 or 20 years sometimes. So literally, we're putting the money there, we're letting it sit, it's going to go up, it's going to go down, and we did it because we got a tax deduction today. But you just told me that taxes are going up. So we're putting money in this to get a tax deduction at our lowest tax bracket of our life, to then take out weaker dollars later, because remember, our dollars are going to be weaker because of inflation, weaker dollars that are taxed at a higher rate. Who wins in that equation? Is it you? No. Not only that, you've been taught to do things with your money that you would never, ever do with things that money buys. Let me give you an example. Would you ever go to the store and buy a nice Italian loaf of bread? Some of you might be hungry and you're like, But you bring that Italian loaf of bread home, you put it into the freezer, you shut the door and you leave it sit there for 5, 10, 15 years. Whenever retirement is for you, and retirement's 59.5. You come back to that freezer, you open the door and you take out a freezer burned loaf of bread and you look at it and you say, yum. You guys wouldn't eat that. Be a freezer burned piece of something you'd never even touch. Would you ever buy your dream car? And right when you're just about to get in it and drive away, you say, whoa, hold on a second. I can't drive this car. I got to wait 5, 10, or 15 years before I can drive this car. Would you ever buy your dream house with your significant other or your spouse and walk them up to the front door with the keys? Right as you're about to walk in, you say, honey, sweetie, I'm so sorry. Forgot. We can't move into this house for 5, 10, or 15 years. We got to treat this house, this car, and this loaf of bread the same way we treat our money. I do that, folks, because I'm trying to get you to understand what's going on here, what's really going on here. You've been told a big lie most of your life when it comes to money. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the backward bicycle. What we think we know about money is not how money really works. This is a good example, and it's much better. Normally in the slideshow, I can actually click through, but we'll just do it this way. Who on here has bought a new car in the last year? Anyone buy a new car in the last year? Jerry, let me know one of the names of somebody that bought a new car. I'm going to play a little role play with them. Anyone?
Yeah. Go ahead and post in the chat if anyone bought a new car in the last year. Christina says, yes, she did.
Christina, man, you're popular tonight. Okay, Christina, you're gonna basically buy a new car. You already did, but we're just going to pretend that you're buying it now. Now, there are 4 ways you can buy a car. And to save time, I'll just tell you what those are. Now, Christina could have bought a car. She could have paid cash, okay, which means she would have had to have saved up money to pay cash for that car. Or Christina could have leased the car, which in that she's exchanging monthly payments for the right to drive a car. And then when the term's up, she just gives the car back. And those payments are interest and principal. She could have financed the car and made monthly payments, principal and interest, and then eventually sometime, usually 5 years, 60 months, she would own the car. And the 4th way you can buy a car, well, not buy it, but you can steal a car, but don't do that. So there's 4 ways you can buy a car. Now, let's go back to Christina. Christina's been saving money in a really good bank, okay? So right over on the right-hand side, you've got yourself a really good bank. And that really good bank pays Christina 4% on her money. Not a bad bank. Now, I want you to understand the magnitude of this slide. I've been doing this presentation almost a decade now. So you can kind of understand, just a few short years ago when I did this and I said 4%, people are like, oh, that's a really good bank. Today, well, interest rates are a little higher. So let's just assume that 4% is still a pretty decent interest rate on your bank. But Christina wants to buy a car and she doesn't want monthly payments. So she comes into that really good bank, and I'm going to play your banker Naugle. So Christina, you come in and I greet you. I say, hey, Christina, how are you? And she says, good. Hey, listen, Chris, I got to take that $25,000 that I've been saving out of the bank. And I know it's earning 4%. And this is a really good bank, but I'm going to take that money out and I'm going to pay cash for a car because I just don't want monthly payments. And I say to Christina, okay, Christina, I do understand, but hold on a second. How about this? Christina, how about you don't take the money out of the bank? You just leave it there to earn the 4%. And our bank will make you a loan for that car. And we're going to charge you 6% for that car loan. And you can pick the term, but let's just say 60 months. Now, am I making a good deal? Remember, she's getting 4% in the bank, and my really good bank is going to make her a loan at 6%. Christina, am I doing you a solid there? You're probably thinking, I don't know. I think I still want to pay cash. And then I say to you, Christina, I say, but hold on. I know what you're thinking, Christina. How about this? How about when you leave your money in our bank, I guarantee you that our bank will pay you more money in interest than you will ever pay us on that loan at 6%. So in other words, Christina, you'll earn more money at 4% than you will ever pay us at 6%. Am I lying to Christina? Am I telling her the truth? Can that really happen? Is it possible to make more earning 4 when you're paying 6? Now, if you folks are like most, that you're looking at it, and sorry, it's already kind of given away. Most people are like, no, 6 minus 4 is -2. I'd be losing 2%. But if we actually come down to the mathematics of this, it tells a different story. I wasn't lying to Christina in saying that. She will make more interest at 4% than she ever pays at 6% on that loan. Because if you do the math, the monthly payment on a $25,000 loan at 6% over 60 months is $483.22. You multiply that times 60 months and you get $28,999. Not too bad. Okay, she gets the car, she pays the interest of a couple $1,000. Over on the bank side, her money sat there and compounded. Okay, there's that word, compounded, because it sat there in the bank earning 4% for 60 months. Her balance is $30,525. Now, if we do the math, she just made $1,526 more, unless my math is done differently here in Buffalo, New York, than where you're at. So right there, that proves to you mathematically that it is possible to earn more when you're earning 4 and paying 6. Can any of you understand how and why that actually happened? Well, first thing you'd have to understand is compound interest, what Albert Einstein called the 8th wonder of the world. He said it was the most powerful thing in the universe. He said those that understand it earn it. Christina was earning it. Those that don't, pay it. Christina was also paying interest, but she was paying simple interest. So the bank was paying her compound interest, meaning each year when she made 4%, the next year she was compounding on the $25,000 plus the interest. So her interest was now earning interest. And her car loan, she was just paying simple interest. So that's the first part of the equation. The second part of the equation is every month, Christina made a monthly payment against that car loan. So every month, the balance of that car loan went down, and at simple interest, she was making a payment each month that more and more principal was being paid down because the interest was lower and lower as the principal went down. So one was going up and one was going down. Now, right there, you learned something, but the one thing that would be really cool, and I just want to kind of throw this out there. What if you could find yourself a bank, a really good bank, where you could earn 4% or even more on your money, but instead of having to leave it sit there, you'd still be able to use that $25,000. So Christina keeps her money in the bank. She takes the loan out for the car, but then she takes the $25,000 out of the bank and she goes and makes it work for her somewhere else. She invests it or loans it out or buys real estate and makes interest a second time, but the bank never stops paying her the 4%. Now I'm getting ahead of myself. But that would be pretty freaking cool, wouldn't it? If you could earn uninterrupted compound interest so that you wouldn't have to just leave your money sit there and just earn interest while you couldn't use it. All right, so let's move on. This is a simple slide and I like doing it. Do any of you own businesses? We got any business owners? Anyone own a restaurant? We got 30 people on now, so not bad. Someone's in here has got to own a business, right? So if you do, you can put it in the chat. Let me know what kind of business you own and Jerry will call them out. But let's just pretend that one of you owned a restaurant. Now, if you owned a restaurant, would you, if you wanted to meet with me and Jerry, would you invite us to your restaurant? Of course you would. You'd be proud to have us at your restaurant. That's your blood, sweat, and tears. That's your vision, your dream. You'd invite all your friends to your restaurant. You'd bring all your family to your restaurant. When you had big events, you'd of course want to take them to your restaurant. Okay, point made right there. Now, for all of you women on here, sorry to leave the guys out, but for all of you women, if you owned your own salon, would you get your hair done at your salon or would you go across the street to the competitors? Of course you'd get your hair done at your salon, wouldn't you? Okay. If you owned your own gym, I mean, I'm sure a bunch of you work out, and when you work out, you see the proprietor of the gym there, unless you're in like some big corporate place. But I know the gym I go to, the two owners, the husband and wife, they're there every day. Every day. I don't see them at the other gym that I go to. If I went to another gym, they're always in their gym because they want their customers to see them in their gym. So the point I'm making with all of that is if you owned your own business, you'd be proud of your business. You'd want people to come to your business. You wouldn't steal from your business. You wouldn't try to hurt your business. So now the final question, right over on the right, that's a bank. If you owned your own bank, would you make deposits in your bank or would you go across the street to Bank of America? Of course, you'd make deposits in your bank because you own it. Your name's on the front. Now, if you needed a car loan, would you take a loan from your bank or the competitor? You would take a loan from your bank. That's what your bank's in the business of doing, is making loans. That's how banks survive. Okay. And if you took a loan from your bank, would you make monthly payments back to your bank for that car loan? Like, would you pay the car loan back the same way you'd pay Ally Bank or Bank of America or Wells Fargo? Of course you would. And those payments you'd make back to your bank, you would, of course, pay principal and interest, right? You would never cheat your bank and rob or steal from your bank, would you? No, of course, you'd pay the loan back. And of course, you'd pay it back with principal and interest. And if you were a really good bank, a really good bank owner, you would pay your bank the exact same amount in interest that the competing banks charge. Now, you might shop the competing banks and say, hey, Ally Bank's got the lowest loan interest rate out there. So if Ally Bank's charging 5%, then I'm going to charge myself 5%. And when you own the bank, you set the terms, you set the rules. You can charge yourself any interest you want. You can loan yourself any amount you want. You can pay yourself back in any term you want. When you own the bank, you set the rules for the bank. But let's be very clear about one thing about owning a bank. You would never steal from your bank, because if you did, your bank eventually would go out of business. Any one of these businesses we just talked about, if you stole from it, your business eventually would go out of business. In R. Nelson Nash's book, Becoming Your Own Banker, he talks about a grocery store, and he talks about a grocery store owner stealing the peas. And now I know this is such a simple thing, but they just talk about him stealing the peas. Every day he would steal a can of peas. And then his employees would watch him steal the peas, and they'd be like, well, the owner's stealing the peas, so follow the leader. Let's steal the peas as well. And eventually the grocery store would go out of business. And the simple message there is never be an honest, always be an honest banker and never steal from your bank. So if you're going to be your own bank, it's important that you understand first and foremost how a bank operates. And again, just a lot of numbers up here because normally I would just click through this, but let's just go through how a bank operates. We take our deposits, okay, that we work hard for, and I'm going to draw some pictures on here, okay? So we basically go out and we take money and we deposit it in the bank. And here I'm showing a 4% interest rate, okay? So we take our 100 grand, we put it in the bank. That to us is an asset, but to the bank, that's a liability. So the bank does what rich dad, poor dad does, converts liabilities into assets through loans. They loan that money out and they charge a higher interest rate, 7%. So then if they lent the money on a house, they take collateral, which is the home. So when you get a mortgage, the bank is taking collateral, which is in the form of a mortgage. And in doing that, the bank now, see, like I hate Max, I just don't understand it backwards. Okay. Now you paid for the house with the bank mortgage, and the seller gets the money, and the seller does what the seller always has been taught, puts the money back in the bank. Maybe a different bank, but same thing. The bank then takes that liability, which is your deposit, and lends it back out on a car, charges 8% on the car, pays the car dealer puts the money back in the bank. The bank then flips that money back around, lends it out on a home remodeling loan at 9%. Notice how the numbers are going up because the risk for the bank is going up. The house is the lowest risk. Car is slightly higher risk because it's on wheels. The home remodel loan is probably a little higher risk because it's second position, not first position. The contractor takes the money from the remodel loan and puts the money in the bank, and the bank lends it back out on a debt consolidation loan. The debt consolidation loan is the only loan that is unsecured, so the bank charges 12%. And then the credit card company that you paid off puts the money back in the bank. In every one of these transactions we just went through, who was in control of all of those transactions? Was it you? Because it was your money, right? It was your deposit. Were you in control, or was the bank? The bank was in control. So the bank was in control of every one of these transactions. Not only that, the bank took on very little risk in doing this and making your money go to work for them, because they took collateral, a house, a car, a second position on a house. The only thing uncollateralized was the credit card debt payoff, but that was a high enough interest rate where they justified the risk with the higher return. In every one of these transactions, the bank made a spread, keyword spread. They paid you 4 and they charged 7, so they made 3%. They paid you 4 and charged 8, then they charged 9, and then they charged 12. So if we add all those spreads up, the net spread the bank made 20 and you made how much? 4. But that's not how much money the bank really made. So a lot of times, if this slide was working right, or if I was from stage, I would ask all of you how much the bank actually made more than you. And the math is right on the screen. And I want to kind of circle this because I want you all to see this. So if we take the math, we take the 4 you're getting and we divide that into the 20 that the bank made. How much would you come up with if we did that math? You come up with 5, right? 5 times more than you, which is actually 500% more than what you make in the bank. And this is where the truth hurts, okay? Banks, there's not a bank in this country that makes less than 400 to 1,300% more than you do on the deposits you leave there. Go to BauerFinancial.com and you will see there is not a bank in this country that makes less than 400 to 1,300%. There's Bauer Financial. You can do your own research like we had to. So if you wanted to become your own bank and you want to make the spread like the bank does, and you want to learn all of this stuff and do it all, there's a couple things you need to do. Number one, you got to learn the process on how the bank did that, which I just showed you. People put deposits in the bank. The bank makes that money go to work for them through loans in different sources, cars, houses, home remodeling, all sorts of things. So if you wanted to become the bank, the first thing we'd have to do is we'd have to change one thing, folks. We'd have to change one thing. We'd have to change where the money goes first, because you can't take the spread. You can't be the bank if all the money's going into somebody else's bank. Let's be clear about that. So we're going to change just one thing. And we're going to put our savings, the money that we normally would save in a bank, not all the money that you make, because you got bills and you're going to put money in a bank anyway, and you're going to pay your bills from a regular bank. But we're going to take the money that you would normally save in a bank, the money that you would normally save in a 401k above and beyond the match that you get, or wherever else you're saving money. We're just going to change one thing. And that is where it goes first. That's it. That's all you got to do to make all this work. Change where it goes first. And we're going to put it into a machine. Now, this machine that we're going to put it into is what I've already told you. It's a dividend-paying whole life insurance policy from a mutually owned company. Now, when I say that, a lot of people are thinking I'm crazy. When I do this from stage, and I kind of do it real slow because I have one line come up at a time. When I'm done, that's usually when people decide that they have to go to the bathroom and they're going to get up and they're going to slowly try to creep out. I stop them and I say, you know what? I knew this is the point where people would want to go to the bathroom. Sit down and listen. Because what you think you know just ain't so. Because when I say whole life insurance, the first thing that comes to mind is everything negative you've ever been told about whole life. Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, terrible place to put your money. The only person making money in a whole life is that agent selling it with that big old commission they're going to get. Now, some of that is true, what you hear from Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman, but it is true in the general sense of the whole life that your broke-ass brother-in-law is trying to sell you. You see, what Jerry and I do when we design these specially designed and engineered whole lives is we reverse engineer them. We literally build them backwards. We build them the same way all those wealthy families build them. We build them the same way the banks do for Bully, because what you don't know yet is that banks are the #1 purchasers of whole life insurance in the world. You can look it up and I'll give you the source in a second. It's called Bully. BOLI, right there on the bottom. If you Google BOLI, what you'll find is hundreds of pages, but you might as well just go to the main source, fdic.gov. It's all over the news today. And then in fdic.gov, why don't you look up BOLI? And what you'll find is this. You'll find that the top 5 banks in this country, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, US Bank, PNC Bank, you'll find that those top 5 banks, and this is old, this is as of 2021, had almost $76 billion. $76 billion in whole life insurance. And we're only talking about 5 of the banks, only 5. That doesn't include any of the rest of the banks in this country. So when we come back and we start thinking about, well, why whole life? Well, because that's where the wealthy put their money, folks. And that's where banks put their money. But banks would never tell you to put your money there. Banks would tell you to buy term, invest the difference. Dave Ramsey, buy term, invest the difference. And Dave Ramsey, one day, Jerry, Dave Ramsey's going to send us a box of chocolates, man, with a thank you. He freaking owes it to us, because when we design these policies, folks, we're going to put the lowest death benefit, the lowest whole life death benefit on, because that's what Dave Ramsey says. Whole life insurance is expensive. Great. So let's put the lowest death benefit on the policy we can. And then let's stuff the most amount of money into the policy that we want to. So we're going to put the highest amount of premium deposits in and the lowest death benefit. But then we got to face the IRS, because there's some rules called the MEC 7 pay rule. And they're going to say we need to have a certain amount of death benefit to support a certain amount of deposits. No problem. I'm going to take one from Dave Ramsey. We're going to put a term rider on that whole life policy. That's right, Dave. We're going to use your fancy cheap term insurance, because that's what you say. It's cheap. Everybody should buy term, and only term, because it's cheap. Great, Dave. We're going to put term insurance on the policy to meet the IRS requirements. And now what we've got ourselves is something that looks just like that high horsepower engine you're looking there. We've got ourselves a whole life insurance policy that was designed and engineered to be a machine to grow cash. That's right. Well, let's talk a little bit, not just about growing the cash, but let's come back over here to how your money flows. Remember that example with the really good bank? What you don't know is what I wasn't talking about a real bank. I was talking about an insurance company. See that building right there it's not a bank, it's an insurance company. Because these insurance companies that we work with are the largest mutually owned insurance companies in the industry. And they pay a guaranteed interest rate on your money contractually. So that interest rate can be anywhere between 2 and 3.25% by today's numbers, guaranteed for the rest of your life. Once you lock it in, if you lock in 3.25, it's locked in the rest of your life. But then, because they're mutually owned insurance companies, every single year they pay a dividend. And the funny thing is you might say, oh, dividends, sometimes they pay them, sometimes they don't. Yes, dividends are not guaranteed, but you know what? Every insurance company we use has paid consecutive dividends for well over 100 years, never missing one, not even through the Great Depression. So are they going to pay dividends next year and the year after and the year after? Well, if the history is any proof, the answer would be yes. So with dividends, you're not making 2 or 3.25%. You're making like 5.2 to 6% on your money. So here in this example, I only showed you 4 because I like to underpromise and overdeliver. And then that car loan, I showed you 6. Now, it wouldn't have mattered if I raised that car loan to 6%. You still would have, 8%. You still would have made more at 4% because that's how math works. So I'm going to skip over a couple of slides and I'll come down to this one because I know I've really kind of taken some time to help you understand money and help you understand banking and help you understand what this vehicle is that we're going to put money into, which is a specially designed and engineered whole life. But all that is really just talking about stuff that, yeah, it's cool, but let's get down to the real stuff you want to know. See that car right there? That's Eleanor. I don't know if any of you ever watched the movie Gone in 60 Seconds, but that's a pretty badass car. Now, what if I told you that no matter what kind of car you're ever going to buy for the rest of your life, what if I told you I can show you how to get all the money back for every single one of those cars that you will ever buy, drive, and own? And all you got to do to get all the money back for every car you're going to buy, drive, and own is change just one thing. And that's where your money goes first. So if you can all agree that that's good by you, that you're okay changing one thing, let's take this next step. We got to go back to our mindsets. We got to go a couple more things on the backward bicycle because I already know when you take out any kind of insurance, thing you look at is the premium. And what do you call the premium? an expense, a cost. How much is that going to cost me? When you go to buy term insurance, how much is that going to cost me? When you buy your homeowners, how much is that going to cost me? When you buy your car insurance, how much is that going to cost me? But when you go to the bank and you make a deposit, do you ask the teller, hey, teller, how much is this deposit going to cost me? Heck no, it's a deposit. So I need you to train yourself right here and right now. From here on out, with everything we're going to talk about with these specially designed whole lives, we are not paying. Okay. I'm not saying that they're free. I'm not saying there's no cost, but I need you in your mind to understand that the premiums are premium deposits because we built it backwards, and you'll see the numbers in a second. It's built backwards. So premium deposits. The second thing I always get with this is people are like, oh, I'm too old. And then I say, well, how old are you? Oh, I'm 48. I'm too old. It's going to be too expensive. Because this is how you've been trained your whole life. Negative thinking, and then I might even get somebody that's 65. Oh, I'm too old. I can't do this. Wrong. Age doesn't matter. I can take a 30-year-old and a 60-year-old, and I can set them up, especially designed and engineered whole life, to do exactly what you're about to see. And you know what's not going to be any different? The amount of cash they have. But you know what is going to be drastically different? The amount of death benefit each has. The 30-year-old is going to have a lot more death benefit than the 60-year-old. That's the differentiator. We put the lowest death benefit on for the highest cash value. So right there, those are the three things you need to debunk in your mind. Now, this is going to kind of suck that I can't just do this the right way. Actually, you know what? Jerry, I'm going to try something here. Now, this may or may not work, but I just had this idea, and I think it will work. Now, just let me know if you can see my screen. That's all I need to know is, can you see the screen? Hang on. I don't know why this hit me, and I'm just like, I think I know what's wrong here. Can you see the screen?
No, still black. Your camera went black too.
It did. Okay, that was an epic fail, massive epic fail, but that's all right, folks. Hang on. We'll go back to what we were doing a second ago. I literally, like, as I'm doing that, I'm like, oh my God, I bet you that's the problem, but that wasn't the problem. So let's keep rolling. Let's learn how to get all the money back for all the cars we're ever going to buy driving on. But we're going to have to do this all with one bite because I can't preload the thing. So Christina, if I got that name right, was the one that was buying a car. Now, remember I said if she was going to pay cash for a car, she would have to save up for that car. Well, here's what we're going to do. To get all the money back for every car you're going to buy, drive, and own, I got some bad news. The first problem with this is you are going to have to capitalize your bank first. Because remember, we changed where your savings goes. So in order to save up with the car, we got to save up. We got to capitalize your bank. And that's what I'm showing you here. So we're going to capitalize the bank right here to a tune of $10,000 each year. So each year, and I don't care how you put the money in, you can put it in monthly. Okay, you can make monthly deposits, you can make quarterly, you can make semi-annual deposits, you can make annual deposits. But just for the sake of illustration, we're going to put $10,000 in each year. Now, in the first year that you put $10,000, this is what you probably don't know, and this is what I didn't know. You can build a policy so that it has immediate liquidity. In other words, if I put 10 grand in, I immediately, within the first 30 days, will have access to some of my money. How much of my money? Well, in this example, I'm showing less than 60% because I'm showing a really bad example because I like to under promise and over deliver. But the policies Jerry and I do for all of you and for our clients are significantly better. But just understand that you're going to have immediate liquidity. So we put 10 in, we got 5,800 here. The second year, we put 10 in and we got 12,000. The third year, we put 10 in. Now we put $30,000 into our banking system over a course of 3 years. But now we're ready to buy the car. So what we're now going to do is we're going to take $25,000 out of our banking system. Okay. So if we add this up, you can see we're still a bit shy of 30 grand. So right off the bat, a lot of people are like, well, that sucks. If I put it in the bank, I'd have 30 grand. And here I don't even have 30 grand. Yes, but you have a death benefit. And if you just stick with me for a second, this is the worst period of time in any of these policies. The first 2 to 3 years are the only years that you will have a negative amount based on what you put in. But every year for the rest of your life, and I'll show you in the next slide, every year for the rest of your life, every dollar you put into the policy, you will be able to take out more than what you put in. Now, let me repeat that. If I put 10 grand in any year after the third year, 10 grand in, I can take more than 10 grand out every single year for the rest of my life. But to do that, I had to capitalize my bank, which means I had to wait 3 years. I literally had to put money in and not have access to all of that money in the first 3 years. That's the trade-off. If you can't live with that, this system is not for you. But if you can, let's move on. So we took 25 grand out of the bank and we bought the car. Now, I'm not going to explain how we took it from the bank, but we didn't take a withdrawal. We took a loan from the insurance company. The insurance company literally gave us $25,000 from our death benefit. They advanced us part of our death benefit, but they only can advance up to the amount that we had in cash value. So you can see, I actually show it in this illustration as a withdrawal because you see 25 came out and only 42 is left, but really you're earning interest and dividends on 29,204. I said this earlier, but now you're going to start seeing it. You are earning uninterrupted compound interest. That's right. So the money that you have in there never left your account. It just collateralized the loan that the insurance company gave you because the insurance company gave you 25 grand of your death benefit while you're living, of which you bought the car. Now, if you remember earlier, we talked about if you owned your own bank, you would always pay your bank back with principal and interest. Now, I already showed you what the monthly payment would be on a $25,000 car. I rounded up. So it's roughly $600, well, let's just say $6,000 a year, $500 a month. So $500 a month, $6,000 a year. What we're going to do is we're going to make monthly payments for the car we just bought back to our bank, which is our policy. So every single year, we're going to pay $6,000 back to our bank. Now, a lot of you are like, why? That makes no sense. Why the heck would I ever make monthly payments for a car that I paid cash for? Chris, that doesn't make sense. It sure does make sense. Why wouldn't you make monthly payments? You would have been okay paying Bank of America monthly. This is your bank. Don't steal from your bank. Be an honest banker and pay your bank back with principal and interest the same way you'd pay their bank back. The difference is when you pay your bank back, every payment you make back to your bank is money that you have in your bank to use the next day. So every time when I put $6,000 back in this policy, I have $6,000 more. So let's just go to the math. Over 7 years, we put $70,000 into the policy in premium deposits. We also made $6,000 a year or $500 a month car payments, totaling $30,000, which now we've paid the car off. We took $25,000 out, so we repaid $30,000 because there was interest on that. So let's go down to this next line. If we add these two, that's 100 grand. So we put 100,000 in between premium deposits and recapturing the money that we would give away or the monthly car payments. But we bought a car, so we got to subtract the car out of that. So we put in $75,000 and we got a car that's in the driveway bought and paid for right now. So if we go up here and we look, we put 70 in, how much money do we have in our bank? 67,881. That's how much cash value we have in our policy. Okay, so for that first car that you bought, you literally got 91 cents of every dollar you paid for the car back. None of you up to this point have ever known how to get 91 cents of every dollar you pay for a car back without having to sell the car. Because remember, I said the car's in the driveway, bought and paid for. But now I realize that most of you don't just buy a car and hold it for the rest of your life. You buy a new car every 5 years. Most of us do. So let's do that. So year 8, we're literally going to go and we're going to buy another car. And that another car we're going to buy is 25 grand. So just play along. But now we're not going to put any more deposits in the banking, in the policy. So right here, no more deposits. The reason I show this is I want you to understand that it's not the deposits that matter, it's the process. You would never not make premium deposits because why would you ever stop making deposits into your bank? You wouldn't. But here we're going to repeat the process. We're going to take a $25,000 loan. So remember, now we have $76,521 earning interest and dividends, but we now took 25 out. So 51 is all that's available because we took 25 out and it's collateralized. So let me make $6,000 monthly pay or $6,000 payments back each year. And let's just get down to the math. So we paid $30,000 for that second car with principal and interest payments back to your policy. So we got 30 minus the 25 that you paid for the car. Our net injection was 5,000. It's a lot of numbers I just threw at you. So let's sum it up. How much money total did we put into our banking system? Well, for the first car, the first 7 years, we put 75,000 in. Okay. The second 5 years, 8 through 12, we put 5,000 in. That means that we put $80,000 into our banking system. Now, in our driveway right now, we have 2 cars bought and paid for, but we really paid for them We paid 80 grand for them. But how much money's still in your account in cash value? $91,000. So you have 2 cars bought and paid for in your driveway. Want to be clear, you don't have to sell those. You can gift them to your kids, you can give them to a charity, or you could sell them, but you have 91 grand. So 91 minus 80 is how much? It's 11,473. You just made $11,473 for buying 2 cars. That's how you get all the money back for every car you buy, drive, and own. I have a video on my YouTube. It's a little old now, but it's how I, from 2008 till, I don't know when it was, 2019, how I bought 3 vehicles during that time frame. Okay. And I got all the money back, but every car I bought, I made more money on. It wasn't just 11,000 the second car, it was significantly more, and significantly more the third, because of compound interest. But I never gave up the opportunity to use the money if I needed it. Anytime I have cash value in the policy, I can use that money. And every time I want to use that money and I take it out, it doesn't leave my account. It still earns interest and dividends. It just keeps compounding. And to do what I just explained with the car, it required you to do 3 things. Number 1, pay yourself first, save money. Number 2, pay yourself with interest. If you take money from your bank, be an honest banker and pay yourself back with interest. And number 3, recycle and recapture your money. So if you take money from your policy, always make sure that it makes its way back to your policy, because that's your banking system. If it works for a car, what else does it work for? Well, planes, trains, automobiles, real estate, everything. But you know what else it works for? Debts. It works for debts. And this is the part that's really going to tick me off, that I can't just click numbers up. But I'm going to try to do this and make this as exciting as I can without technology working in my favor. Is that fair enough? Do any of you have any debts? Any of you have any credit card debts, car loans, home equity lines, private loans? Anyone saying they got debts, Jerry?
Any debts in the comments here? We do have a question from Ernesto. At what rate do you recommend paying yourself back?
Oh, that's a great question, Ernesto. This is how I do it, right? So when I buy a car, I will always go to the dealership, or I'll go online and I'll see what the going rate is. I'll ask the dealership, what are the rates for the bank? And a lot of times I'll play games, and I'll just have the car dealer go back and forth with the credit manager trying to get me the lowest rate. And when I finally get a number on a piece of paper slid over that I like, that's my number. So you're the bank, you can come up with any number you want. But I just make it fun, and I just pay whatever I would pay somebody else's bank. The truck, like I have 2 really nice vehicles, and both of them, that's how I did it. One, I went to Mercedes dealer and I asked how much they would finance it for, and they gave me a rate. That was the rate that I was going to pay myself. I went to bankrate.com. I figured out what my monthly payment was going to be, and I set up a bill pay every month from my account where our income goes, and I have that go to our account, our policy, right? It goes right to our policy. My truck, when I did it, I figured out what the monthly payment would be with Ally Bank. Okay. And then once they gave me that, I knew how much money to pay my bank back. So the real question is the number can be anything you want, but always understand this. When we take a loan from the insurance company, let's just pick a number, because the numbers are all over the board depending on the company, but let's just say the insurance company charges us 5. Okay. Let's just use 5 as a standard. Now, if you're making 5.6% in interest and dividends, and you're paying 5, what is your spread, your gross spread? It's 0.6. And next year it'll be more. Why? Because your money's compounding. And the next year it'll be more because your money's compounding. But I want you to understand that's the first spread. But now, if the insurance company charges me 5 to borrow my death benefit for that loan, then I probably, when I pay my policy back, should pay my policy back something north of 5 to make it a second spread. If I'm already making a spread on the policy to from what they're paying me, interest and dividends, to what they're charging me, that's spread number 1, just like a bank. But now let's make spread number 2 in this case. If I'm buying a car and the car company is going to charge me 5.5%, great, charge yourself 5.5. Now you just picked up another 0.5 point spread. See what I'm saying? So just always try to just use the barometer of what they're charging out there on the street, and that's what you charge yourself. And I had a situation where, when interest rates were down to around 0 to 1, people were like, well, should I just finance it through the car dealer? I said, no, it's cash flow. You do this, and we penciled it out, and it still worked even at 1%. Any other questions?
So we had 2 people that said so we have one, Nick says he's got some debts he's working on with his account. And then 2 people said they actually have successfully used their policy to pay off their debts already.
Fantastic. So for those of you that do have debts, I'll just run through this quick. This is a real example. This is a real case study. It's not going to be as fun the way I got to do it without clicking through, but he was a chiropractor. He saw us do a presentation somewhere, and he came to us after, and he just said, hey, I need your help. And he was kind of standoffish, and we're just like, sure, what's the problem? He says, well, I got a lot of debt. I said, join the crowd. Everybody does. And he said, no, I got a lot. And he gave us his debts. Here what they were: Discover, Lowe's, Nordstrom, Wells Fargo, private loan, BMW, West Marine, condo, and a house, totaling $478,774. Now, I wasn't startled when he said this, but that's a lot of debt. But that wasn't what he was worried about. The dollar amount of his debt wasn't what he was worried about. What he worried about was every single month he gave up $5,777 a month. So if we add up that monthly payment, that's how much money he was paying. $69,324. That's more than some people make an entire year that he was paying on his debts, which you're seeing right there. So then what we said to him is, we said, okay, well, how much money are you saving? And he grabbed a scratch pad and he figured out about $25,000 between 401k savings and some other things. So he was saving $25,000. And we said to him, okay, well, what if we just took what you're saving and we just paid that amount down on your debts? And he said, okay, well, sure. Would that work? And I said, I don't know. And what we figured out is if he took $25,000 and he just used the $25,000 he was saving without putting it into the policy, without using the process that I'm going to show you in a second, he just paid his debt down, it would take him 19 years. Truly 19 years. That's how it penciled. And when we told him that was unacceptable. He could not live for 19 years in this much debt, paying that much a month. So we said, okay, well, Mr. Chiropractor, doctor, can you change one thing? And he said, sure. Well, can you change where your money goes first? And can you follow a set of instructions, kind of like a GPS? If we give you a map on exactly what you have to do each year, can you follow the map without any changes? And he said, absolutely. If it will end this pain, I will change whatever. We said, okay. So let's go to year 1. Here's what we had the doctor do. We had the doctor change where he put his savings first. He put it into a specially designed whole life, right here, represented by deposit on the screen. And in the first year, he put 25 grand in. He had access to roughly 60% of his money. His cash value was 14,863. So when he put the 25 grand in, immediately in the next 30 days, we took a loan from the policy for the 14,863. And what we did is we paid off Discover and we paid off Lowe's. Now, when we pay off Discover and we pay off Lowe's, and we also paid down Nordstrom. So when we pay those down, the job is not done yet. Because remember, we can't steal from our bank. We took a $14,000 loan from our bank to pay these down. Now, he was paying $161 to Discover and $287 to Lowe's. So if we add those up, that's $448 that he was giving away to those 2 debts, but he now paid those debts off. So what we said to him is we said, all right, Mr. Chiropractor, all we want you to do is take that $448 that you were saving by not having to pay those debts. And what I want you to do is I want you to put that into a segregated bank account. And he didn't know what that meant. And we said, okay, go to your bank and open up a second checking account. But don't get a debit card and don't get anything. Just open that up. And that's where we want this $448 to go. Now, why would we tell somebody to do that? It's kind of like the sacred account, right? We tell people to do that because we want their money segregated. We don't want all their money going into one account where, the husband, the wife, the kids can go and spend that money. We all know whatever goes in your bank account at the end of the month, it's gone. Listen, I don't know if you're any different than me, but that's just kind of how it works. So by separating the account that you do for your banking, you got a much better shot of that money not disappearing miraculously. So $448 went into a segregated account each month. So that was the first year. Now that you kind of see what we're doing, I'm going to go a little bit faster. Is that okay? And if you guys have questions, just throw them in. And Jerry, you can stop me. None of this stuff will throw me off. Year number 2, chiropractor does the same thing. Puts the $25,000 from his savings into the policy. Immediately takes a loan within the first 30 days for $16,571. Notice the number went up. Now you're starting to see compound interest at work. Takes $16,571 off, pays Nordstrom off, pays Wells Fargo off, pays the private loan off, and pays down the BMW. But now, because he doesn't owe Nordstrom, Wells Fargo, and the private loan money, we add those up. So now we've got $1,917 extra every single month that he can save. So his monthly payments that he's giving away to everybody went from $57.77 down to $38.60. That's how much he saved. So all we're doing is we're just taking the money that he's saving by not paying the debtors, and we're putting that money in the segregated account. So each month he's now able to save $1,917, and he didn't have to work any harder. He didn't have to work any longer, and he didn't have to take on any additional risk. This is money he used to just give away that he no longer has to give away, but he's keeping it separate in that checking account. That's key. So as you saw, when we did this one to pay these debts down, see this 5374 here that's mentioned as payments? That 5374 is him taking the money from the segregated account. So we took the 16,000 loan from the policy, the 53,000 or 5,300 from the segregated bank account, which gave him this year in year 2 21,000. So now what we're doing is we're using compound interest in our favor, but we're now using the infinite banking concept, the process, in our favor, which gives us back the velocity of money. So now everybody sees what's going on. Let's go to year 3. So year 3, we do the same thing. He puts 25,000 in the policy. Okay. He takes a loan from the policy immediately in the first 30 days, but see how much money he takes from the policy now? He put in 25, and now he's taking 25,541. Remember I said this earlier. There comes a time in the policies because of compound interest, whether the money's in there or not, that now he, for the rest of his life, he will be taking more out than what he deposits. This is the magic point. We call this the efficiency point, where the policy is literally, and I can't say this through compliance, but printing money. Every dollar that goes in, he's taking more out than what he puts in. And that is net of all the cost of insurance. That is net of policy service fees. This is raw growth of his policy. But he was also saving $1,917 every single month, which is money he gave away on all those debts. So that segregated account has now grown to $23,004. So if we add the 25 from the loan plus the 23 from the segregated account, we got $48,545. So we're going to come over here and we're going to pay off BMW. We're going to pay off the boat loan, and we're going to pay down the condo. So now we're 3 years in to what he thought potentially could have been a 19-year marathon. And now he's only giving away $2,100 a month, the condo and the house payment. And he's now able to save $3,677 every single month. That isn't new money, folks. It's just money he gave away. So let's just do a quick recap of what's happened in the first 3 years. This is what we call the marathon. Year 1, he put 25 in. Year 2, he put 25 in. Year 3, he put 25 in. So he put truly 75,000 in premium deposits into his policy. But year 1, he took the loan immediately in the first 30 days for 14. And then year 2 was 16, and year 3 was 25. I rounded down. So he took out 55 of the 75 he put in. So if I were to ask somebody just from the street how much money's left in his policy, most people would take the 75 minus the 55 who took out, and they would say there's 20 grand left in the policy. But that isn't it. You already know that. He never took any of the 75 out of his policy. So he has 75 left in his policy, earning interest in dividends, because the 55 he took out, the loans, were in advance of his death benefit while he's living. And the only thing the 75,000 does is collateralizes this loan for the insurance company. So you can see this is the marathon, but this is also why there's no other vehicle on earth that can do what a whole life insurance policy can, because you're able to earn interest and still use the money. You can earn interest and dividends while still using the money. This is what we call uninterrupted compound interest. So let's continue on. Okay. Year 4. Year 4, he puts 25,000 in. He takes a loan for 26,000. See, the number just keeps going up. He was saving 3677 from all those other debts he paid off. So that would mean in a segregated account, he's got 44 grand. So if we add those two up, it's 70,000. So we take the 70,000, we pay down the condo. But all of you know how it works when you pay down a house mortgage. If you don't pay it off, the monthly payment doesn't change. It's not like Discover, Lowe's, Nordstrom, where when we paid them down, the monthly payment went down. No, we don't change. So year 4 is kind of a throwaway year. We paid the debt down, but our monthly outlay of $2,100 does not change. So let's go to year 5, or sorry, year 6. No, year 5, sorry. Year 5, he puts 25,000 in and takes out 27,000. He was saving the same amount, 3677. So he's got 44,124 in the segregated account. That's 71 grand. So now we're able to pay the condo off and we pay the house down. So his monthly payment 5 years into this infinite banking concept program, we call this the MAP, is $1,221 that he's giving away on his primary house, which means he's saving $45.56 from when he started. So now we're going to go to the 6th year, the 6th and final year. He goes to make a $25,000 deposit into his policy, but he gets a notice from the insurance company that he can't. He's reached his MEC limit, which is the IRS limit for how much money he can put into the policy. So he's only able to put $10,000 into that first policy that we set up 6 years ago. But he puts $10,000 in and he realizes he can take $13,000 out. So folks, hold on. Let's do some math here. If you put $10,000 into your bank account and you went back to your bank and you could take $13,000 out, what is your cash on cash return on that $10,000 you put into the bank? Can anyone, how much would that $10,000 have to earn to give you $13,000 back? Who can tell me? How much interest does $10,000 need to earn to make $3,092?
So guys, we put in 10, we've got, so Nick says 300%.
Nope. 30.
Krista says 30%.
30%. So we're 6 years in, but because of uninterrupted compound interest, this client, this chiropractor, made 30% cash on cash on his money. He was so excited. He said, screw this. I need to put more money into this. So what he did is he set up his second policy. So now he's got 2 policies. So his second policy puts 25 grand in. Now he can take 13 from the first one when he put 10 in. The second one, we're back to what we were on the first one, 25 in, 14 out. He's got 54,000, but he was saving 45.56. So he's got 54,000 in the segregated account. I mean, you know the story. He's got 82 grand to pay off the house, 76 grand. It took him 6.5 years to pay off all of his debts. Now, every single month, he's got $5,777 building up in that segregated account. What do you think he's going to do now? Now he's debt free. He's going to take that $57.77 every month and he's going to put it right back into his policy as a loan repayment to now build up all that money that he took out using, I can't call it free money, but literally using newfound money. Money he was giving away is now going to put all the money back in his account. He paid off all of his debts, but he's going to get all the money back for all the debts he paid off too. This debt map right here that I'm showing you on the screen, this represents the work we do behind the scenes. So when you work with Jerry and Jerry's team, finds out your needs, your goals, how much money you want to put into your custom designed whole life policy. Once we figure all that out, what we're going to do is after you get issued, after your policy is issued and funded, so now you're ready to go. You got your money in your policy, you're ready to go. What we're going to do is create this. We have an entire team. We have 4 people on our implementation team. And that team's job is to work with you, the client, to figure out exactly what we just did for the chiropractor. Maybe it's a car, maybe it's buying real estate, maybe it's lending real estate. We're going to map it out. So instead of you having to guess what the future is going to look like using your money this way, we're actually just going to show it to you. Think of it just like a GPS. You're going to put the coordinates in. You're going to tell us what your coordinates are. And our team is going to design this. Now, this one that you're looking at is what we designed for that chiropractor. And we're not going to charge anything for that. All you got to do is basically have us set your policy up and have us help you learn and implement the infinite banking concept. Now, remember I told you earlier, some of those numbers that I was showing you, they're not real sexy. I'm getting to the end of this, folks, because I know you've been with me for a while. So let me just kind of show you the reality of what the policies look like that we design with Jerry. This is a company, this is a real client. I chose this slide. I threw it in here just as a bonus because this is one of the main companies, Jerry and I use for our clients. It's called Lafayette Life. And this is actually a real client's policy. I can't give you his name, but his name is Kevin. Okay. Kevin came to us and Kevin had some money. He's a real estate investor and he had some money sitting in a bank account. And when he heard the presentation, he's like, hey, I don't want to keep money in a traditional bank. I want to put my money in the policy. So he said, can I dump in $50,000? And we said, of course you can. So he said, okay, I want to take the 50 grand from my traditional bank and I want to put it into my bank, the policy. So we said, no problem. So you can see right up here, Kevin put 50 grand as a dump in. Literally, just think of this as look down at your pockets. You got 50 grand in your right pocket, you move it over to your left pocket. Why? Because your left pocket pays you dividends and interest that exceed the amount your regular bank pays you. But then Kevin said, and I did a small one here, he said, he wanted to save 500 a month, but we couldn't get there with the MEC rule. So we could save $491 a month. That's how much money he could put into his policy based on the design we did, which is $58.95 per year. So let's just do the math. He puts in 50, and after the course of 1 year, he puts in another 58. So he's put in 58 or 55,895. Trying to do this with not a mouse, but my thumb. Wow, this is a lot more challenging. All right, that's the last time I'm going to try to do that. But that's how much money he puts in. How much money does he have available to take out? $51,554. Now, Kevin, when he started this, was 38 years old. So I want to put things into perspective. He's a 38-year-old healthy male. But can anyone do the math? Take 51,554 divided into 55,895. It's over 90%. So in his first year, he has access immediately to over 90% of his money. Okay, I just want to be clear about that. All of you, when we design your policy, you're going to have between 80 and 90% access to your money immediately, especially if you do a dump in. If you do a dump in, you get more out early on. But what Kevin learned by us teaching this is he said he puts 55,895 in, but he can take out 50, let's just call it 50 grand. How many of you on this webinar right now could use 50 grand right now? Any of you? Anyone need to borrow 50 grand from Kevin? So what Kevin could do is he could lend any of you 50 grand. And maybe let's just say one of you agrees to pay Kevin on his 50,000, 12%. Damn, this is tough writing with this thing. Sorry, my writing's sloppy. If you've seen what I'm trying to do here, you'd understand. So 12% at 50 grand. Now, how much money is still in his account earning interest and dividends? Remember, he had 51 in cash value. He took 50 out. How much money is still earning dividends and interest? Any of you that guessed 51,554, you're right. So he's making interest here and he's making interest here. He's making money twice. But let's go on to year two. This is where it gets really exciting. Now, remember, year one, he found somebody to borrow 50 grand and he's making 12% on that. So that money's gone. Year two, he puts 58.95 in. Year two, at the end of the year, when he gets his dividend, he's got 71.41, which means his 58.95, if we subtract those two, he made $1,246 in the second year of his policy, which means in year two, he made what would be the equivalent of a 21.14% cash on cash return on that 58.95. Because remember, a lot of you are like, wait, no, Chris, he put in 55.895 plus 55.895. That's not the right return. You got to stop and you got to understand what we're doing here. We're putting money into the policy and we're immediately finding a place to get that money to go to work. Remember, I showed you a car, I showed you debt payoffs. Now I'm showing you lending or real estate. So because the 50 grand is no longer in his account, you can't count that. It's not cumulative return anymore. We're literally looking at this year by year. What is the return on the new money we put in the policy? Because the old money we put in the year before is already out working for us. So now he's got to find somewhere to send 71.41 out to work. And each time he does this, I do this in 5-year increments. 5th year, he puts 58 in. He has 74 to use. He made 26. And then the 10th year, he made 54%. And the 15th year, 115. I know this gets boring, but you see what's happening here. I'm not showing you hocus pocus. I'm not showing you market-based returns. I'm not showing you the freaking S&P 500 or the indexes. None of that crap. This is old-fashioned, boring mathematics. It is uninterrupted compound interest. These are the real numbers, folks. This is what they look like. This is how they work. This is what they do. Like, it's not going to change. So if you like what you're seeing here, now a lot of people, when they see this, they say that sounds too good to be true. Well, it's not, because that is exactly how it works. Now, the second piece is, now that you understand the policy, you need to understand the process. The process is everything that we went over earlier with the car and the chiropractor, but now let me sum it up and make it really simple. I want in your mind, because now we got the backward bicycle. We're learning how to ride this, but now we got to simplify why and how do I ride this backward bicycle? Draw a circle in your head. On the left side of the circle, okay, this is the circle. It's on the screen. On the left side of the circle is your bank. This is where you're going to deposit your money. On the right side of the circle is opportunities. Okay. Opportunity. In this case, this is actually my policy, and I'm going to draw a circle. Sorry, it's not a perfect circle, but you get the drift. That's the circle represented by the arrows. We want our money to start on the left. We want our money to go over to the right. And when it goes over to the right, we want it to make more money. And then from the right, when it makes more money, we want to take the money from the right and move it back over to the left. Steve Jobs spent a ton of his career proving to people and telling people like Wozniak, we need end-to-end control. And even though he got fought by everybody in that company, including his own board, including his own partner, Wozniak, everybody said, no, it needs to be open source. He said it needs to be controlled by us. We need to control end to end. Well, folks, I want you to look down at your phone. Most of you use an iPhone and you love it because it's fully in control. Your money should be in your control, end to end, which means it's a circle, and everything that your money ever, where it originates and where it goes, should always be in your control. This circle is your control. This is a flow of money. This is my policy. This is an old policy of mine, but I had a loan with KeyBank. It was a line of credit that I used for buying real estate, and they charged me 9%. It was an unsecured line. So I saved up in my policy I saved up 25 grand. I took a loan for 23,000, which is how much I owed KeyBank. I paid KeyBank off. I took the $289 a month that I used to give KeyBank, and I put it back in my policy as a loan repayment. Here's that segregated bank account. Notice how it's in the middle. Everything flows through the segregated account. Why? Because this is how you track everything. This is your books and records. Every dollar that comes in from loans is tracked. Every dollar that goes back through is tracked. You can very easily see the flow of your banking system's money. But here, how much money did I make? Well, if my policy is making 6, which it is, and I was paying 4 when I did this because the interest rates have gone up on the loans. So 6 minus 4 is I made a 2% spread there. But then I took back 9%. I recycled and recaptured $289, which was 9% interest on the loan. And I now made $289 a month, which is 9%. And all I did is I just took back the banking functions in my life. One more example. This is more current to what I do today. Now I have lots more money in my policies today. I have 9 policies on me, 3 on my wife, 2 on my mom, and 1 on my 3-year-old daughter. But I'm just going to use the same numbers. Let's just say I don't have debts, and some of you don't. I lend my money out on real estate deals now. So I find people that I trust, that I've done my due diligence, and a platform called privatemoneyclub.com that I created. It's like a dating site for money. People that have money meet people that need money. Perfect scenario. So I lend money on Private Money Club, anywhere between 12 and 18%. So if I were to take that same 23 grand and I were to lend it out on a real estate deal at 12%, I then take the monthly payment and I put the money back in my policy, and over and over and over we go. It's just creating end-to-end control. And the things that we didn't talk about, because we didn't really have time, is we never really talked about the death benefit, did we? I mentioned it earlier that we need a death benefit and that Dave Ramsey should give me and Jerry a box of chocolates for using term insurance, but we didn't talk about it. But I will tell you that there will come a day when all of us will get to graduate. And what I mean by graduate is not going to high school or graduating from college. I mean the big graduation where we get to go to heaven. And when we go to heaven, we're no longer here on earth, but our families are. So that death benefit gets paid out to our families tax-free. Now, I've been doing this almost 20 years now. I'm 45 years old. I have delivered more than 20 death benefits. I understand that what we do is really, it's cool, it's fun, it's exciting with the cash value, but I really understand what we do, because when one of my clients passes away and I get to deliver a check to their family that doesn't know how they're going to continue on with their life, that doesn't know how they're going to do the things that they were able to do when their spouse was around paying the bills or helping bring the income in, everybody else is asking that family for a check. Well, we need a check for the funeral. We need a check for the casket. We need a check for the flowers. I'm the only one bringing a check to them. That is incredibly important. We never talked really about the loans. We always talked about paying the loans back, but I will tell you the insurance company will never ask for the loans because the loans are just in advance of your death benefit. So if you never pay the loans back, which please don't do that, but if you didn't, the insurance company, what they would do is subtract the loan balance that you didn't pay back from the death benefit, and they're going to pay out the net. The internal values grow tax-free. So all that interest and dividends that you're earning from the insurance company, it's all tax-free. No taxes because it's life insurance. Policies are exempt from judgments and liens in most states. These policies are also private, which is why you don't know how much the Rockefellers or the Rothschilds are worth, because they have so much of their money in their own family banking systems, which are none other than specially designed and engineered whole life. You know, I think Warren Buffett says it best. He said, if poor people would just do what rich people do, they wouldn't be poor anymore. Now, Warren can get away with that. We probably can't, but I think it's still worth talking about. So folks, we shared a lot of stuff here. We went over a lot of different things, but all you had to do here was change one thing and literally apply a process of how your money flows and how you control it all. That's it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. So we answered a lot of questions throughout. That was amazing, guys. I think everyone enjoyed that. We have one question left if we've got a minute to answer. This one's a little bit more technical. So this is from Dan. Dan asks, are the policies quote unquote better in today's high interest rate environment, all other variables held constant, versus a policy that was maybe underwritten in early 2021?
100%. So I'm glad he asked this question. Now, I don't talk about this much because I can't predict the future, but here's one thing I can do is I can tell you what happened in the past. So in the past, dividends were significantly higher than they are now. And remember, I've been doing this 20 years. So firsthand, I can tell you what dividends were, and I could even show it to you. We have been on a steady decline in dividends, which means the amount we've been making on these whole life policies over the last 34 years, you know, I've only been part of roughly 20 of them, but for 34 years, the dividend scales have done nothing but go down. They've had a couple up and down movements, but only down because we've been in a lower trending interest rate cycle. Right here, right now, you all know what's happening. The Fed raised interest rates 7 times last year, and they will continue to raise them this year, which means we now are in an upward moving interest rate cycle. Not only that, when you have an upward moving cycle, interest rate cycle, and the Fed's raising rates, treasury bonds are paying more. Well, if I were to pull up any balance sheet from any of the mutually owned insurance companies that we deal with, what you'll see is that the number one asset that insurance companies own are long-term treasury bonds. And I don't know if you've checked lately, but long-term treasury bonds just in the last 2 years has more than doubled. So insurance companies are buying and gobbling up 2, 10, and 30-year treasury bonds because they're locking in the future. They're locking in the next 10 years, 30 years. So that in the future, the tailwind behind these bonds that they're buying today will pave the way for us to be in a higher dividend scale in the future. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself because I can't speculate and I can't predict the future, but I can tell you that that's what's happened in the past. And based on this question, that's more than likely what's going to happen in the future. But the numbers you saw tonight are based on today's dividend scales, which are the lowest dividends that we have had in the last 34 years. So if you like the numbers you saw today, well, I think we're going to be really happy in the next decade.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chris. So guys, if you're interested in scheduling a consultation with Chris and his team to learn more about getting your own policy, if you're a current client and you would like to open up a second one, that's a point I want to stress is we had a couple people that said, hey, how do I put more into it? And so you can open more of them. Like Chris mentioned, he has several on himself, his wife, his mom, his daughter. And so that's something you guys are able to do. So that link is in the chat. We will be sending this out on replay, putting this on our social media posts, including the link there as well. Chris, is there anything you wanted to hit before we close out for tonight?
No, I think we covered a lot. I mean, obviously I can go hours and hours and hours on this stuff. There's just so much amazing things you can do with this. But again, I want to take you back to what I said, with that quote, because it's really important. It's not what we don't know. The problem is what we think we know that just ain't so. Stop letting other people determine your future and stop conforming to what other people's failed realities have resulted in. Start creating your own financial future. And this is where it starts, because this is just the foundation. The rest is built off of what you just learned.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Well, guys, we'll wrap up on that note. We'll have to have Chris back again sometime, but we'll tune out here and be sure you schedule that appointment, and we'll talk to you next time. All right, bye
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.